this link shared out. I really apologize, guys, for being late. We're going to cover Bitcoin and a bunch of alts. Just sharing this out on Twitter. All right. Yeah, we'll give people a few minutes to get in here. Major context right now that I think everyone who's watching Bitcoin cares about is that we've been in this prolonged downtrend since essentially the new year for 4 months. Multiple rejections, depending on how you draw it. It was essentially something like this, right? Where you have clean rejections, and then we kind of ran through it maybe a little bit. But if you're on, it depends on whether you're on log scale, regular scale. Like this is just kind of a touch of the top again, and here, this is another clean rejection. This was clearly the breaking point for the downtrend. So this happened over the weekend with this kind of final little pivot low and then a big impulse. And I think kind of the last way that you could have legitimately structured this downtrend was just as a channeling structure. Something like this. But clearly, when we broke out, retested this impulse to the upside, for me, if you followed any of my other live streams, I was taking this short. I was taking this short here and continuing to short into the retest of the downtrend until it broke. And the breaking point for me on this, on these shorting ideas was just here. Just this high getting taken on Sunday. And I made a video about that, switching the bias, looking for upside. So the question, of course, that everybody sort of wants to answer is the bottom in, and is this the beginning of a strong trending move? And if so, what does that look like? Or if not, is there a short setup, and what are the targets and that sort of thing? So I've thought about this a lot, and we're going to pull up. I'm just going to kind of train of thought some of this stuff. Like there's different ways you could like structure all of this in terms of bearish ideas, bullish ideas. You have some harmonic ideas where they're ultimately bullish, but they see lower first. And you also have bearish harmonic ideas that see higher first. And of course, there's some Elliot wave confluences here. But for all the ways you could interpret what's happening here in terms of targets and predictions, I actually think it's kind of straightforward for me how I want to trade this moment. One thing that I can't help but look at is, and I've talked about it already, is we have, it's kind of the same thing whether on log or non-log. You have the point of control with the GP right above us, right around 97K. GP is a little lower on log scale. But this is major resistance, and you kind of have a region here, which is you have this high that we made on the first Trump pump. Obviously, and I said this in my video when I talked about this local breakout here, these highs are quite vulnerable on this break of structure, and the reason it doesn't make sense to stay short here is because all of the major bearish trending ideas are broken. Now you could have said, well, it was clear, like more likely they were going to get broken here as this was happening, and I would actually agree with some of that. Like over the weekend, this kind of got, the tail end of this got quite bullish, and then this looks like like literally just grinding straight up into an impulse. But anyways, with these local highs getting taken, why would you sit short here when prices, yes, it may fake out into these highs, and there might even be some short ideas here, but even as we were taking some of these highs and impulsing to the upside here, like this is a short I took, and it ran to 1R. I actually pulled the risk on that and did okay. I mean, didn't take much of a loss. But like you had this idea of maybe just faking out these highs. But even this, we just start grinding back up on the hourly chart into the idea. There were some ideas of shorting some of this stuff for a retest for just scalps. And you know what? I'm going to talk about this briefly because I think it's going to be important for navigating some of this up above, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see a move up into this level, which I am interested in shorting, and I'll explain it how I'm going to navigate that in a moment. Let me go over to the Discord just really briefly. Okay. So this is the other day when we were right around 90. There's this idea of shorting into some of this structure. But what ended up happening, so basically I was willing to fade this impulse. There was tons of aggressive longing coming up into here. If we started seeing some local weakness, this is a scalp. And I explained it's a scalp because you're basically just looking to counter trade the aggression here. You don't have swing targets. You're just kind of looking for to short into any kind of reaction and into the weakness, and maybe liquidate some of those longs. And so basically we had this, right? Massive short squeeze, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of positive delta, aggressive buying. And when we started to see this weakness coming in here, I basically took a short here. We have this little range forming, and we start breaking down. So it's basically like I'm just watching this local structure, looking for signs of strength or weakness. But then what happens as soon as we take a local low is really aggressive shorting starts coming in here on this impulse as well. So we have 76 million negative delta here. It's almost half the volume on increasing open interest. And then just saying that now looking for those shorts to get squeezed out. And then what ends up happening is as we start moving to the upside, so now deferring to just another retest of the highs, more and more aggressive shorts start coming in. And this is scalping updates, by the way. This is like trading the 15-second chart on an impulse. But this principle is probably going to apply for me in the ensuing price action. It's like you have these ideas, but as more and more aggressive shorting comes back on every impulse or every reaction to the downside, even if I'm just at break even or slight profit, price is right below or around my entry, I'm just going to close it because I'm not really interested in being counter trading this aggression when everyone is shorting it. I mean, order flow should show me everyone's shorting this. Everyone's shorting this. That's what I would call an overcrowded trade. So anyways, we carried on higher, and I had a scalp long idea there. So I'm interested to see what happens above, because of course there's no reason to be swing short here, and you might have some ideas of like counter trading some aggression, targeting local lows here, but But it's funny. I think this is probably going to impulse during this live stream. That'd be kind of nice to see. But my idea here is I'm interested in a swing short that I'm going to take profits on and also take a long on a minor retracement. So I'm going to talk about some of those ideas. So my plan right now is kind of two main ideas. Is the major level being tapping the big point of control here and the major GP of the move. So that's low, the high to the low. 618. It's the 618 is a Fibonacci number. It's just saying you're retracing 61.8% of the move. It's a bit of a region here. But understanding that there's two ideas. One is taking the liquidity above the Trump pump, and one is this 100K, 99.6K high. And both of those are sort of vulnerable here. And you could trade this so many ways. So what my goal here to personally is to think about where price is at, what are some of the potential outcomes, and how can I reasonably try to position myself to sort of win no matter what happens. So just to kind of establish the goal here, I'm going to start with a really basic version of this, and then probably start refining how I'm going to trade it after the basic version. So the basic version is this. And of course, the response is going to be something like, are you just trading towards this major, level idea at 67K no matter what happens? And the answer is yes and no. But when we start to look at what the retracement ideas for the bullish scenarios look like, of course, and I'm going to talk about the idea of just breaking up out of this as well, but let's assume that there's a short setup here that gets taken, and let's assume it's structured something like this. All right, so now I'm exposed short on this pump. May or may not work. And price starts retracing. Now, what are the bullish ideas? So the bearish idea here, which I really shouldn't, just because it's not really going to dictate too much how I trade. I really shouldn't say too much about my bias, but I can't help but feel that this is going to go lower. And of course, you can build the case for not, and you can build the case for, it just has this look. It kind of reminds me of this trade, and I'm a little bit wary of it. This trade of coming up to retest the point of control and the 618, they were aligned here as well. I thought they were actually perfectly. Oh, it's because I'm using a different pairing, I think. Maybe not. Oh no, it's because it's from here. Yeah, they were aligned around 66, 67K. I had it pulled from obviously the major high. And anyways, we ran through it a little bit, and then we just nuked. And I actually had that idea just for frame of reference. I just can't help but remember some of this. This was back in July, but back at the time, I had this idea of us forming a range here, coming up, testing this 67K level, the point of control. I had all this drawn out. This is really messy, but coming and taking the 50K low and getting a rally off of that, maybe forming a downtrend. That was kind of like my basic idea. And so I was interested in shorting around that point of control. And of course, it's just the natural, let's go back to TradingView. This was here. It's just kind of the natural feeling in a range that it feels really bad to take any of the shorts at the highs, because it's like, no, this is it. And then, we just keep ranging. And then eventually, if you're really shorting all of the ranging or trending ideas, you're eventually probably going to take a stop loss. But anyways, in this case, we pushed up a bit above the point of control and formed another lower high. This was a little bit tricky in terms of price action. So one thing I'm going to do is if we push up and we break out of this level, I'm going to accept this as a sign of strength. If we are trading above the point of control, kind of like this, come and tag this high. And if we start holding above this, bullish absorption, I'm going to treat it as a sign of strength until it's lost. But probably if we start grinding down and starting to see some structural weakness, then I'm just going to take a short. So if we start just seeing like a downtrend forming like this, I'll just probably take a short in that case. This is if we're trading above the point of control. So my plan right now is to take this short, essentially. TP1 is under these lows. This is the idea I talked about in my last live stream, which was not live stream, that 5-minute video is essentially cutting my short here and probably just looking for this high to get tested at the point of control. All of this, I think, is within reason because taking this high also looks okay. And I'm going to talk about the difference between just sizing a trade like this or maybe trading as two separate setups in a moment. TP1 on my short at these lows and taking a long off of a retest of these lows, because I think most of the bullish ideas here probably still see some meaningful reaction off of this resistance. And there's another long I'm going to take as well, by the way, and that's at the 382 and this region. But I'm not going to TP my short there. So my plan will be to ideally get in a short that gets as much out of the bearish scenarios as possible. Yeah, I'm going to look at alts as well. I just read a comment there. Which is, this is a major level for the bearish ideas. It's not a level to treat any major rejections from here lightly. But it's also just the type of level that you retrace from and put in a higher low. So how does it make sense to treat this a short from here like a scalp, like target something like that? It's probably a really reactive level, or risk round tripping it for some deeper targets. I'd rather have this short open in the variation of testing these lows, take profits and leave the rest for the deep correction scenarios. And some of these harmonic targets or these like AB equals CD targets, like you have some alignment, funny enough, it's a little more bearish around this 59, 58K level, around the 60K level. It depends on if you're on log scale or not. Targeting down towards the 786, kind of this sort of, there's some alignment down here. You have your 1618 extension. Obviously this needs to be watched. But anyways, the point is, my plan will be for the short leg to let this trade run into these lows. And I'm going to probably be looking to take two different longs. And I'll kind of explain those long setups. In the bullish case, I'm probably just going to round trip. In the really bullish case, I'm probably just going to round trip some of a profitable short and let the long leg print. Keep in mind that these fibs are just pulled projecting, assuming we're at least going to test the point of control. If the high comes in here, if we push up to like the 786 here and sweep this high, this all has to be adjusted. But the basic idea would be to take some of this, get exposed to a short in here somewhere on some trappy looking moves, aggressive longs, probably have to sleep on and accept some of this risk. And a top here can take a little while to form as well. It can be more like this, where we spend a bit of time up here. And then every long I take will be targeting all-time highs. So I'm not going to, for these positions, I'm not going to be taking profits on, let's just say I get into this long. I'm going to be probably taking profits off something like this back at the point of control. And so the worst case scenario for me, which is a possibility for these positions, is we reject here. I mean, it's not even really that bad of a case scenario in this case. I guess the worst case would be a 382 bounce. But we reject here. I get a TP1 off my short, and I get a long, and then I don't take profits on my long. I get stopped out of the rest of my short, and I round trip a short. Of course, there might be some situations where I just take profits on the long, but this is my general trading plan. If I want to trade this as a range, I would just take different trades on completely different structured trades and leave my swing positions as swing positions, because all of the bullish ideas here essentially look like this. I mean, whether you're looking at harmonic ideas, Elliot wave ideas, come and retest these highs. If we just break up out of this, hold the point of control, and impulse to the upside, there may be a long setup there. So depending on how this is structured, this is an alternative long I would take. If we spend some time up here and just a retest of some local lows, I might try a continuation long up here. But what's the point? This is very specific. What's the point talking about it? I want to ask, does it make, like right now when I look at this, I think this point of control and 618 looks quite good. I think taking these highs up into the 786 look quite good. So does it make sense to everyone why I might consider, instead of taking this like this, something like this, let's say like a position around the 618 into these local highs. It might even be a little lower depending on if I want to wait for a bigger sign of weakness. Why I might, instead of taking the trade like this, why I might start looking to structure this as two different trades. One being a short sweeping this high into the 786 instead of encompassing it as two trades. And a possibility is to split your risk as well. So you look for these highs into the 786, rejection, probably could justify trading that kind of tight depending on how that high comes in. And just take a stop here and trade this as a second trade. And the reason for me is both are kind of major ideas, I think. And there's some situations where you have both planned and you get a trigger here and then price just impulses straight to this level and you get no weakness and you don't even take this short. And so you're basically getting you're getting kind of maximum efficiency or risk out of this position, and where you would have stopped here and not even taken this trigger anyways. And so you're kind of just taking a pointless stop loss. For me, I think it makes sense to split this into two positions. I think it's somewhat reasonable to just trade it as one small wide position. I think the most surprising thing for me, but it's a possibility, would be if we, actually this wouldn't even be that surprising, if we just impulse up through here. That doesn't feel like the most likely scenario, but it's a possibility. But the question is there a short here? For me, almost certainly yes, unless we just go straight up and there's no trigger. And I can trade the bullish scenarios. And so the benefit of trading the way I'm describing is there's not very many scenarios, these swing longs, within this area of the chart where I'm sidelined and I don't make money no matter what happens. Essentially, if if price rejects from here, and if I wanted to, I could pull risk off the short. I think it's reasonable to do as well. Like you could TP sooner, but for me, the TP is going to be down here. And if we start breaking this down, then I have some of that short running, and I'm going to be probably stopping out my long. And I make money in the bear scenarios, even though I was trading the retracement. And if we just bounce here, then I make money in the bullish scenarios. So I'm kind of covered in both scenarios, and ideally locking in profits. Up here, I'm probably not going to be taking profits on my long. If we got something like this, I might take another hedge short for the ranging scenario into another local. I'm doing my infamous scribbles where you can't see what's going on, but like something like this. Like you have this, you have this, you have this. So you take both, the POC, you get a retracement, then you come up and take the high, and then you just start forming kind of a trending sort of situation, and price carries higher. But one thing to say is that, no one knows if price is going to break out here or not. It's just, is it reasonable to put on a short? For me, it is. And as the infamous Mark Douglas would say, your stop loss is the price you pay to find out if your idea is going to work. All right, let me get to alts soon. Let me just read through the comments really quickly. That's kind of an interesting comment. So, Allah says, I have a problem. When I open a coin chart, I immediately take a biased view by only seeing the candles without even doing TA. So when I start drawing, I only do the ones that support my view, and I usually don't see the bigger picture. Yeah, I mean that's 100% something that you have to contend with as a trader. I said the other day to somebody in DM, they were talking about that, like, that it's not their primary scenario, but a big rejection from here can also lead to a lot of scenarios that are like a prolonged bear market. Like not just a rejection lower, but that we're entering a bear market and, we're seeing, and the reality for me is my bias that we're not likely to be entering into a bear market is pretty strong. Like I think ideas like that, like I'm not really even considering them. Like I'm not planning any shorts here for, like, to me this type of idea isn't a bear market, right? Like it coming down into here, I know some people say it's a bear market. It's retesting our 2021 all-time highs. These are all bullish ideas for me. Still looking for new all-time highs. I have no plans of trading down into like 30K with a short from here. I know if I have any shorts running from here and prices trading down into here and something, I'm going to close all of those shorts because my bias is not to take any extremely bearish ideas seriously. But the truth is, I think that's okay because, like, it could happen. What's the evidence? What's the likelihood of that right now? Like, and if it does happen, is there not going to be like other shorts you could take? Like if you kind of start thinking about that idea a little more seriously when price is down here, maybe you're scalping something like this and you TP into the local lows or whatever it is, and you leave some running for a potential breakdown lower. I just think so much is likely to happen between here and a prolonged bear market if we see lower that, what's the point in really thinking about it? For example, we had this, and then we had this huge sell-off here, ultimately from like almost straight down from 48K to 18K. But there were opportunities to get short here, and famously, my big bearish harmonic target right there that played out to a big downside move. So it's just, even if you kind of had bullish ideas in here, and maybe let's just say you have a short from up here and you've closed it all into here, it's not like there's not going to be opportunities to get short again in almost all scenarios for the bear scenario, really bear scenarios. So that said, sometimes it's not a problem just to have a strong bias, because there's just some ideas that you don't really have to think about. Like right now, I could have a really bullish bias that we're going to break up out of here. And so I'm not even looking at this as resistance. But if that happens and I want to trade around it, I'll probably have opportunities to do so. And if it doesn't happen, like this, just see what happens here. I think it's a good practice. And maybe I'll actually do a series on this. Probably be better to do it as like a day trading series, where you come up with a trading plan for the day, and it has 2 long ideas and 2 short ideas, and your plan is just to take all of those trades. So for example, let's ignore all the major ideas here above us, and let's just call this a range. And it's like, so I mean, if you're doing this back here, it's like, okay, taking this low is a long, and the simplest ideas is, of course, if you could probably have a higher low idea and a range idea. So you could do this, you can have a TP in the way, you can do this, and you have TPs in here, and maybe you have some kind of idea for longing some strength off of like a sweep of this. But in this case, we just broke it down, flipped it to resistance and broke down. But maybe if this had happened, maybe you have a long there targeting the highs of the range. And here, let's just say we take this, maybe you also have this short, and maybe you're splitting your risk between the two. So you're risking half an hour on both. Maybe you're even scaling into the position, half your position here, half your position here, stopping it out above the range, and just having both. So there's no bias. You're literally going to trade the top of the range, you're going to trade the bottom of the range, and you're going to take longs, you're going to take shorts, and you're going to do it every day. And I think that's just a good practice to get into the mentality of just looking at relevant levels and not really using too much bias to inform which direction you think price is going to go. I mean, right now, my bias is that price is going to take these highs, and it's hard to even care about shorts until we do. And I think it's just very likely, right? I might do a series on that, actually. Like almost like a basic trading plan every day where there's nothing fancy. Like I might not even pull fibs. I might not look at order flow. Might do nothing. Might literally, it's just like being a beginner trader that's just marking out 2 shorts and 2 longs based on, the 30-minute chart day trade ideas. I mean, of course, in this context, like this is stuff you'd be trading locally here, TP the middle of the range, that sort of thing. But you should also have plans for deeper variations and moves as well. But anyways, maybe I'll do that and just kind of like track the results. Do like 2 weeks, simple plan every day, marking out 2 longs and 2 shorts. I think it may be helpful just to see, like just using basic concepts, which would be like if you're interested in this long, you don't take it until price is back in the range. And so you have some basic rules. Wait for the level. You wait for a sign of strength. You take the trade, use risk management, and rinse and repeat. Cut your trades when the structure's breaking. No having to guess what's going to happen. All right, let me just read here. Yeah, there's another possibility. Someone says you can size bigger with the wider position too. Yeah, like when I'm talking about sizing, I'm kind of talking about, are you sized for your invalidation? Like, for example, you could size this to be 3% risk up at the highs here, and you might cut it a little bit sooner manually, depending on what's happening, give a little room for all this to play out. Because a lot of times you're not really taking, you're able to get out of this position without taking full risk. And you can also just kind of justify saying, I'm probably going to be taking this short anyways. So if neither are going to work, then I'm just going to be taking 2 1-hour stops anyways. So whatever, just roll the risk into both. And there's different ways to approach it. But typically speaking, for the average person, I would just say the wider position, more room to breathe, just let some price action play out, and being sized comfortably for that scenario is usually the best way to go. Like here, up above here, I mean, my bias is probably that we don't just like V-shape like this, but I'm gonna almost certainly be taking a short up here and maybe on this live stream. My bias is that we spend some time up here and maybe even take these highs. But that said, even if I think that's the case, I still want some short exposure here. It's very unlikely I don't take a trade up here unless we just blast through the level, in which case I just wouldn't take the short. I mean, if price just goes straight up, straight through the level, but that's not very likely, but if it happens. Something else I want to talk about is that the like here we have the S&P mini coming up and testing our major downtrend. Nice little bounce off the GP here. I was asked where I think the major support for this big move to the downside for bounce was, and I thought here taking these lows into the GP looked quite nice, have some trending structure there, but here we're testing our major downtrend and GP region for the 3rd or 4th time, depending on how you count it, into this trending structure, and it's an SR flip. So like this is just sort of, for whatever loose correlation there has been between the stock market and Bitcoin, just something to consider that this is also major structural resistance in the context of this downtrend. And that's something I really want to talk about as well, is the context of a downtrend is just what's the relevant structure here. Does going through this structure mean everything is bullish? No, it just means we're going to interact with new structure and that there would never be another short setup. The relevant structure here, to me, this is me, is a major rejection off of a strong trend breaking down, levels breaking, flipping to resistance, coming back up, a trend forming. This is what matters here. If price goes out, then this structure, if we break out of it, is less relevant, and these highs become probably a likely target. Same thing on these retracements. We have an established low. What's the important level here? What happens here? And so the context of the downtrend is sort of similar on Bitcoin. This downtrend is the most important bearish structure until it breaks. And then it's not important. It doesn't mean there's no bearish ideas, but you're not trading a downtrend, being short based on a downtrend, if you're short when the downtrend's broken and is trading up here, right? So anyways, what happens here for a lower high I think is pretty important. No, someone's asking if you're already short. No, I'm not already short. I have a notification that the chat is disconnected. Okay, maybe it's reconnected now. It's kind of confusing. I'm not sure. I've never seen that before. Anyways, that's enough about Bitcoin. I mean, it really is just probably this is. I mean, it's clearly important. This region of the chart, starting probably for me at a sweep of these highs towards this GP and point of control. Again, point of control is even a region. Any rejection under this high probably triggers a short for me. Maybe a local trigger up here as well if we're pushed higher, and up into the 786. All of this just major resistance, and I wouldn't mind spending a little time up here, sort of like this. Hopefully not. I mean, I say hopefully, it doesn't really matter, but not 2 weeks maybe. But spend a week up here, chopping around, ranging, would be kind of interesting and probably give a little more clarity. All right, let's get to some alts. I'm interested in some lower high ideas, or higher low rather, ideas for some swing trades on alts. So I'm going to be putting on some risk if we say reject here on Bitcoin and reject here on some alts, and I'll talk about some of those. I'm going to keep the ideas really simple. For me, the simple ideas on Litecoin are just going to be very similar. This structure looks corrective to me. One thing I'll say, actually I'm going to say this before I go too much further, is when you look at alt charts, it's so different than Bitcoin, right? It's like Bitcoin, it doesn't look that crazy to think we're pushing towards all-time highs and bull run continuation. But you pull open your random altcoins here. I mean, you're not really expecting, and I'm not just going to scapegoat using ETH as the only example, but you're not really expecting ETH just to V-shape here. It's possible, but I mean, you're expecting ETH, if it's going to put in a major low here, even a higher low looks kind of suspicious here. Probably not going to be trading ETH there, but it's a possibility. I mean, you basically have the same setup on every single altcoin and Bitcoin, which is we ranged, we put in a local low, we impulse, and if you come and take that low, it could be a nice setup. But coming and taking this and spending some more time here, like this is just a downtrend, and it doesn't look nearly as reasonable as it does for Bitcoin to just think that we're just going to start trending off of this. But it's a possibility. So anyways, I think this is kind of set up, but man, it sure just does look like we want to spend we want to spend a little more time down here. What the hell happened there? Okay. And maybe come back and take this low. So, probably what I'm going to be doing is I'm not going to be trading every single altcoin. I'm going to choose my spots on a higher low idea. I don't really care that much about getting along on ETH of all the things. And I'll probably just reserve my ETH longs for if we come and take this low again. I mean, we front ran it a little bit. And we could apply this for me, to Doge as well. I made a little post on it. But it's just sort of like, there's two ways to look at this, which is the bottom is in and or forming, or we're just still in a downtrend. And I've talked about it. I'm not going to go into it too much. There's some nice ideas around 11 or 12 cents down here, both on log scale and not. But if the bottom is in, I mean, at least for me, are you really expecting this? Like, this is just it's a downtrend with a reaction, and it doesn't look any different than any of these. I mean, this obviously major idea or major move. And I'm not saying we can't get a major move, but you're probably expecting a bottom to look a lot more like this, right? Where here was a really prolonged accumulation. Here you had a big impulse, and then you start spending a little bit of time and ramping up here. So you're probably expecting a bottom to start looking a little bit more like this if one is forming. Come retest, sweep, retest, or maybe sweep again, retest, something like this. I'm bullish on Doge. and Doge retraced a lot more than I thought it would. I took longs up into this pump, and I closed all my swing longs at 42 cents. That was the major target. We'd end up pushing a little higher, and then I tried some long setups back into continuation ideas. Basically, for the really bullish scenarios on Doge, prices come down to the, like, there's basically, we're talking about Elliot wave ideas for higher lows. There's ideas in here, and there's ideas much deeper. We've basically come as deep as you could possibly come for these scenarios, which is fine, but it's just, I mean, that's why you use risk management, I guess. And I'm really interested in swing longs and Doge. It's just, I don't think this is a convincing V-shaped recovery type low for thinking that that's going to happen. But I think it's really reasonable to start looking for the higher low scenarios and a bottom to start forming. And I mean, for those who have been around for a while, towards the 618, 786, this region, look for signs of strength. This type of setup is something that I would trade a lot, right? Sweep the low, come and retest. Sweep the low, come and retest. You might even find some of these trades in my update history. But that's the type of setup I would try to trade into a low. And that looks right to me. So I'm interested in that on Doge. Simple structures, a little bit of time. We push up higher. This same thing applies. It's just kind of a major low idea. Alternatively, breaking this down, trying this new low and look for signs of strength here. Those are going to be swing positions for me on Doge. It is kind of interesting how different all these charts are, or some of these charts are. Like, we have this really big range idea here on Litecoin. Now we've come and taken the range lows, taken this pivot low. Again, I think it's reasonable to start looking to trade higher lows. Might be some setups in here if this structure changes. ADA, again, testing as point of control. We have some highs here. I'm not really that interested in shorting all these alts, but anything coming up, taking these highs, potentially some trending structure here. Something like this. Going to be looking to long. Double tap off of our 618. Triple tap, always a possibility. But yeah, I'm going to be putting on some risk for this, and I'm going to be putting on some risk if we break this down, coming deeper into these lows of the 618. Again, it's not sitting here guessing that price is never going to go here, never going to go there. It's based on the current structure. Where do I want to put on some long risk for swing longs? I'm not talking about scalping. Get in the 1 minute chart here if you want. I'm sure there's lots of trades, and these are the relevant ideas to me. So I just saw a comment here, and if it means what I think it means, I'll just make a comment on the comment. Abu says, CX says we will get 89K from here soon, but Lucky Chart Ape says that Bitcoin will go to 96K first. I'll just say this, whatever you're reading here, that you're seeing on CX, everyone is saying that we're going to go to 89K from here, and I'm saying we're going to go to 96K. One thing I would say is just don't put too much stock on what you're seeing on social media, because it's so easy just to inform a bias based on 2 posts. for example, I haven't seen, to be fair, I haven't really been looking on X that much. I haven't seen anyone saying that. And so who really cares what anyone's saying that much? But to me, something like this looks okay. It seems a little unreasonable to think that we're not going to take these highs. But we may not. So if we don't, then, and we just start trending down, there might be some different shorts. One thing I'll just say on low time frames, where you really want to start thinking about a big impulse coming, is this. I talk about this a lot. Where you it's almost like a samurai sword. Like there's no wave between the price action. It's like the bars are so tight. It's almost like a solid object that a samurai sword cuts a trend out of. It's really grinding price action. You see it here. You see it here. And it literally looks like a knife is cutting through the price action. You see it here. There's a lot of examples of it. You see it here. Like it's like a straight line through the candles. Not always, but it oftentimes ends in a decent impulse in the direction of that trend. Something to keep an eye out on the low time frames, because it can offer nice little local setups. You see it like this really tight trending price action. You get it on lots of assets. But anyways, I noticed it here, by the way, earlier. We had this into a local impulse to the downside. Just something to watch for. It's just a nice, really simple structure that is not very ambiguous. Like this kind of trending, it's like the intention of this price action is pretty straightforward for at least a local move. Could almost claim that's happening here for now, but it doesn't look quite right. XRP essentially has taken a major low, bounced right off the 618 of the impulse. If it's your first time watching my live stream, you'll know I like pulling the 618. It's typically a nice, relevant frame of reference. We even had a little, I have to go into a lower time frame, but a nice retest here as well. I did actually take this long, but I may have closed that one a little early. But again, I think XRP is probably, for the bullish cases, forming a higher low. The structure is a little bit different here. No, it almost is just trending structure. It's an interesting idea to think about. A lot of these major ideas that I'm talking about have been coming down and taking major lows. Like this looks okay. Obviously this looks okay. Start as a scalp, take TP1, try to carry the rest as a potential swing. But this almost looks like the start of trending price action on XRP. It'd be nice to play some of these trending ideas for just higher low, higher low, higher low. And I might look at this on XRP if we come back into this local low for a setup around that. But if that stops out, I'm basically going to be playing some higher low ideas. Probably this low. In here, I'm probably not going to long the sweep of this, but if we get, I'll look for something out of it if we do sweep and reclaim it. I don't love trading this as a retest. It's a possibility, but definitely interested in that, taking this low again. This is like if I'm just using my intuition here on XRP, of course I can look at the chart every day and see what's happening. It's probably either this or like a double bottom off of this 618. And I'm a lot more interested in the double bottom, and it would coincide obviously with more of a but yeah, this is just bullish. It's pretty bullish. I'm kind of happy to trade this into a trending move and targeting all-time highs and beyond on XRP. I guess for anyone that doesn't know, although I was looking for lower on Bitcoin and still am open to it, my overall ideas are bullish. Blasting all-time highs on Bitcoin, and I like Doge, I like XRP, I like ADA, I like Litecoin. Someone's asking, do you consider the possibility that Bitcoin does not take the last high and that the top is in? Sure. I'm just open to anything can happen. But I wouldn't mind you following up on that question with what is the point of it, right? Like, how can I use that to trade? Like, if somebody just says, do you consider the possibility that Bitcoin just, go straight up to from here, like this 1 minute candle, we don't even ever retest this low, this is a trend, and we just impulse straight up to 200K. I mean, yeah, that could happen, but you're kind of just taking trades based on like, what if this happened? So for me, if we don't take this high and we just reject off of this type of GP lower high type situation, which honestly, at least locally, doesn't look that bad. There's some pretty aggressive longs coming in here. But if we have a major rejection, and this doesn't just play into like a range type idea, then I just missed that swing short, right? Actually, it's funny you mention it, because if you're looking to trade that, you could actually start thinking about structuring some trades here around that idea. I mean, you just have a local high, you have the GP, you started off as a scalp. But this is literally happening at all times, every single day. Should probably have the right tool here, which is, you're kind of trading this like this, looking to TP1. I'm on the 1 minute chart, into these lows again, maybe something like this. Probably TP in here and leave the rest running as a swing if you want to. Try to poke at some of those setups. But Abu says, but is it really possible to get 100K ? Bitcoin didn't hit the key level at high 60 and low 70. I don't think we have that much fuel, but I want to hear your opinion about it though. That sounds like the kind of question somebody who's about to get liquidated at 100K is going to ask. I'm kind of joking, but yeah, it's really possible in my opinion. Like, it's just it's silly to be sitting here, in my opinion, looking at this chart and asking the question if it's really possible that Bitcoin goes to 100K. I mean, look at the chart. It's not just really possible, it's totally unsurprising. And to have any thought in your head even close to the idea that it's not really possible, I think is ridiculous. Am I saying it's definitely going to happen? No, but it's okay to think, I'm going to take some trades on some ideas where this high at 100K doesn't come. And I think, we could reject off of here, whatever it is. But to have any ideas that say it's not possible that we take this high is, I'm just going to be blunt with you, I think is borderline ridiculous. Because what's that based off of? Like, we're basically there. And to make any trading decisions, with the idea that it's not possible to go to 100K from here, I think is, with that mindset, is not going to do you any good. Jonathan says, yeah, I found scalps that accidentally turned into swings actually quite more profitable than my high time frame setups where I risk more. Yeah, I mean, that is kind of sometimes the goal. I don't really want to talk about it a little too much here, of scalping. So for example, I had swing short ideas up here that I got here. I took took a bunch of quote unquote scalp shorts, local setups in here, trying to add to a potential, the primary thesis, which is kind of like, I can manage those positions so locally, I can take a bit of risk off them, can remove their stops and whatever, and make it likely that I'm trading profitable local short setups, that I could leave some running for a bigger play into my swing position. But I round tripped about $50,000 in scalps. I barely took anything off of my scalp positions in here. That's probably my bias playing a little bit too much. It's like, whatever. I maybe took like $4,000 off of what could have been 50,000 had I traded that a little bit differently. But that can certainly play really nicely if you're scalping a range. I mean, that's ultimately the goal. I'm gonna take these range lows, but let's just say you're trading this as a range where you're looking to TP into here, build longs, have short longs, get the risk off, TP, and maybe you're scalping into this little uptrend and planning on taking profits into these highs, and price just blasts and you're in a really nice position and you had really tight risk on it. I mean, that's sort of a lot of the times the goal with scalping is to get positioned for a bigger move with some of your position, right? Like, just being open to that possibility. Like if you're long into something like this, say you long this, targeting these highs, and then price just impulses, you're just basically saying, I'm open to just holding this position. If we just break up out of the range, I'm just going to hold it. But I'll close it. I'll take profits if this happens. So, it's a double-edged sword. Obviously, you gotta pick your spots when to hold. Yeah, I mean, without going too much into it, there's a lot of psychological factors too with taking profits off positions. It's just, it feels good. Like, it feels good for me. For example, I had shorts here, and I took this hedge long, right? I took this hedge long with literally this being the idea to come up. I mean, this ended up being so clean. I'm just curious. Just to come up and sweep this high, and it feels kind of good when you have a primary bearish thesis to find those intermediary longs, take profits off of them, and it kind of, when you're making money counter primary thesis, it feels it kind of takes some of the stress off of the position a little bit. I just want to go to one thing really quickly. Apologies, guys. I'll be done in a moment. It doesn't really matter. Okay. Whatever. But anyways, but now of course, I mean, I actually took this long, and I took this long. I just closed them in hindsight way too early, and those were counter positions to my bearish thesis, which is, I still think in the bearish ideas, these are quite nice ideas for like coming up and then re-tagging this high. So I would, even though I'm short here, I would like to long something like this and close that and then add back to my shorts, which is what I did. But anyways, that's one thing that's kind of nice about building in some counter positions. And of course, you can only think that you would have been better off to just hold those positions at this point. Something that I can't, I was thinking about this the other day. Like, I've seen a bunch of different Elliot wave counts on Bitcoin here, and doesn't this just look, I think that the difficulty is counting this as, it kind of just looks like a zigzag, right? It's like, this looks like a three-wave correction to me. I'm really bearish on the stock market. I am kind of interested to see what happens just into this kind of clean retest of this trend line, taking this high. Do we break out here? I guess an alert. See if that structure holds as resistance or not. Because if this holds as continuation for like a macro downtrend on the stock market, I mean, you're basically, if this structure holds, you're basically looking at strong continuation off of this high. And you can't think that that's not going to play at least some degree. If we just see really strong downtrend continuation on the stock market, into Bitcoin's price action over the coming week. But yeah, anyways, I think the problem here is counting this as 5 waves for the A leg, and maybe not worth thinking about too much here. Like, one thing with Elliott wave is sometimes it is just better at some point when you're in a range and you have really simple levels, simple structures, just to defer to trades around that. But you can't, at least for me, I can't help but think that this looks potentially just corrective. Can you even, oops, wait, where's this come in? Yeah, it's a little, oh, it's not even that low anyways. Yeah, it's probably a little tricky to count this as a, getting into all this internal structure. I'm not going to spend too much time doing this. But it doesn't look on the surface impossible. I don't know. Just this leg of it just looks corrective, but simple structures. But yeah, one thing that I would say too is, as far as shorts here go, or longs or whatever, it's just, there's so much that can happen where no matter what happens, if you're just paying attention to what's happening, you're probably able to get positioned on a nice clean setup one way or the other, right? Like, I don't have to just say my only, right now my plan is shorts up here and longs down here. But every day I can look and see what's happening on the chart, and if a new setup presents itself, I can take it. But do I really have to sit here and think I need to either take a long right now or take a short, because what if we front run this and then I'm going to miss the whole rejection? I mean, if this starts happening, even in this context, there's SR flips, there's ways to get into shorts typically. So, and if something really bearish starts happening, but you should really just be looking for something really bearish to start happening, or major levels to be taken, in my opinion, to look for shorts here. Yes, someone's asking, what's been the biggest blow to your account? Did you, for example, did you have a big loss streak where you lost 10 to 15%? I took a 10 trade loss streak. I took a 10 trade loss streak. Or no, it wasn't 10 trades, because some of it was just split risk between Bitcoin and alts, but I took a really big loss streak in here. Trading higher low ideas. Basically coming and running this liquidity here and trading towards higher lows in here, and then trading towards higher lows in here. Like, I think some of these positions ended up profitable, but I think I even set maybe a limit order here. Basically, the idea of just taking these lows and trending up. I'm pretty sure, like, TPs into these local highs, and probably some other confluences. But we just basically kept running this low and making equal lows, and I was asleep at some of these lows. So anyways, basically in here between Bitcoin and alt, I took a pretty big loss streak. How does it affect me? I mean, not really. Because I just know that they're bound to happen, right? It's like, I think at the time it's just like, okay, I mean, what am I, like, what was my alternative plan here? If I want to take any trades in this, it's like, okay, I just think we're going to just run into these lows a billion times and then bounce. It doesn't really make sense. You don't really think you don't really think like this is the most likely price action in this, and however it played out on alts as well. It's never fun to take loss streaks, but I also get big win streaks. So, but when I say 10 trades, it's not 10 trades on just Bitcoin, but it's basically taking trades on Bitcoin and alts at the same time. And typically, if you're taking longs in Bitcoin and alts at the same time, they're all going to lose. But that's something I talk about too, which is if you're taking correlated risk, you're long in Bitcoin and 5 alts all at the same time off of a major move to the downside or upside, typically they're either all going to work or they're not going to work. So you need to think about that in terms of risk. No. Someone's asking, do you size down a bit after that losing streak? No. I don't believe, I mean, I trade an account that, like, there's a couple things I believe, which is, if you follow me for a long time, one would be if you're a brand new trader, you should be risking next to nothing. But even if you're an experienced trader, like, people think you should just be trading your net worth. Like, if you won the lottery tomorrow and you have $100 million, you should be trading a $100 million account size. You should just be trading an account size that is comfortable, right? Like it, in a way, it's not that it doesn't matter in the sense that you literally don't care about your trades. It's just if you take a loss streak, then you take a loss streak. I mean, I literally can just do the math, and I've done it on videos where you know if you're trading, I have 60,000 updates in the Discord, or 60,000 posts in the Discord over the last 4 years. I'm trading every single day. If you're flipping the coin that many times, it's not a question of if you are going to run into loss streaks. Like 2s and 3s, if you're taking thousands of tens of thousands of trades potentially over many years, 2 and 3 trade loss streaks are literally happening all of the time, and win streaks, of course, right? And then you probably shouldn't be taking your 10 trade loss streak every week, but is it going to happen over the course of thousands of trades? Yeah. And just trading an account size where it's fine. That's my opinion. Like let's just say that you start off with, let's just say that you have $100,000 to your name and you're a brand new trader. Does it make sense to start trading with $100,000 with no experience? No. But so let's just say you worked yourself up to you're trading a $5,000 account, and you've doubled it to 10,000, and maybe you're going to grow it to 10,000. At some point, do you think there's going to be a psychological barrier where if you take a 10 trade loss streak on a $100,000 account versus a $10,000 account, it's going to feel a lot different, right? With a $100,000 net worth. So anyways, my opinion is, don't trade such an account that you're making irrational decisions, which for me, so many people who do day trading, they'll say that they'll stop trading if they take two trades loss streak. That to me is crazy. I mean, it's not, do what works for you, but how could it make sense? And this is the example I would give. Let's just say that I'm going to long this. Let's just say I'm going to long this, and price starts breaking down, and I take this long, and it stops out. Let's say I take this long too. Okay, I stop out, and then I take this, and whatever, we rally. I don't take profits off of it. Stop out, and then the big level comes, 64K. And I say, I have a rule. If I've taken 2 stop losses, I'm not going to take another trade. So I'm not going to trade this major idea that how could that make any sense? So if I just hadn't taken this trade and only taken this one, or hadn't taken this one and only taken this one, then I'd be allowed to trade this big idea. And would I update in the Discord, hey everybody, there's no way I'm taking this trade. They say, why not? Because I just took a 2 trade loss streak. It's it doesn't make any sense. Just take trades that you think are reasonable and good, manage your risk, understand that loss streaks and win streaks will happen. And the inverse is just as powerful with the concept of winning streaks, which is you're going to run into big win streaks and start thinking, whoa, I'm really good. I just won five trades in a row. I'll probably win my next 5 too. You're going to run into 5 trade win streaks. It doesn't mean you've suddenly become so much better at trading. It's just you took 200 trades, and now because of the distribution of wins and losses, random distribution, because it's not, if you have a 50% win rate, you're not expecting win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. It's going to be win, win, loss, loss, win, 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 loss, win, loss, win, win, loss. And sometimes you're going to run into win, 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 and you flip it at 200 times, you're going to run into that 95% of the time. And so there's 2 kind of stories that people run into as traders all the time, which is I just took 3 or 4 losses. I ran into a loss streak, and so I decided not to take my next trade because I didn't want to lose again, and it was the one that would have worked. What the heck? What are the odds? And then the other is I was doing really well, and I ran into a big win streak, and I thought, oh, I finally got this figured out, and so I started risking way, way, way more. And then I started losing more, and I tried to risk more to make up for it. And then I lost all my gains and some, right? And it's because they're just constantly making adjustments based on factors that are irrelevant to what they're doing. I ran into a 5-trade win streak, so now I'm quadrupling my size. I ran into a 5-trade loss streak, so now I'm not trading my next setup. And it just doesn't really make any sense. I mean, it just doesn't make, it could make sense psychologically, like emotionally, to be like, I don't feel good about taking that loss streak, and I don't trust my, that I'm looking at things correctly, and I understand that. But I'm just meaning logically, it doesn't make any sense. And so and I think a lot of it has to do with account size. So for example, somewhere between trading a lot of risk based on your net worth and or a paper trading account. A paper trading account, probably you take 2 losses, you just take the next trade, you don't really care. And it's these types of little things that make you understand the difference between trading without fear and emotion and the difference with trading with fear and emotion. Because an emotional, fearful person doesn't take the 3rd trade or the 4th trade because the other 2 lost, and that was the winning trade that pays for them all, whatever. So what do I think about ETH? I mean, I think it's in a big downtrend, big reaction, front ran some lows. We either start forming some bottoming stuff or we don't. I mean, the reality is, like, this is kind of a bit of a backwards way to think about it, but it's also not. If Bitcoin is just going to start trending up towards all-time highs and beyond, like if something like this happens on Bitcoin, 30K, and we start doing something like that, even into here, most major altcoins, it's worth keeping in mind that there's millions of alts, and I think just expecting every single alt to go to all-time highs is really dumb, because it's just not going to happen. I mean, like something like WIF, FYI, this is like the POC GP that I took that short on WIF. But anyways, like, I think some coins like WIF, maybe not WIF specifically, but some of these coins are just going to be dead. They might do this. I don't think it's reasonable to expect, like, when Bitcoin starts rallying and altcoin season comes, every WIF is going to go up 5,000% to all-time highs. It's just not going to happen. But some alts are going to do quite well. When I look at all these alt charts, though, it's just kind of like what does it look right that like Bitcoin just starts trending really strongly, and these alts, I think with something like this it could, but man, this would look pretty strange, wouldn't it? So anyways, my thoughts on ETH would just be, this is just a downtrend. It's just a downtrend, and maybe we come up here, test these highs, and if we're building a quote unquote bottom, maybe spend a bit of time down here and start rallying. But if that's going to happen, then you don't really see that happening too much with the scenario of Bitcoin going straight up. So does that mean ETH is going to go straight up? There's sort of a weird paradox here, which is like somebody will build a trade thesis like this. This is going to be hard to explain, but I see some version of this a lot. And I'm not going to use the specific one because I'm not calling anybody, or a specific one, but I'm not calling anybody out. So I'm not calling anybody out. But they'll look at a chart like this and they'll say, Bitcoin has never gone above all-time highs. And then, I don't know, like, what are we going to say? Bitcoin never formed an all-time high, had a significant rejection, wicked through it, and then not gone down 77%. Let's just say something like this. So then they're going to use that, and they're going to say, therefore, if Bitcoin comes up here, if it rejects and just wicks this high, that means it's going to go down 77%. So, and then they'll say, that is impossible. Bitcoin will never go down 77% to 23K. Therefore, I know that Bitcoin is not just going to wick this high and it's going to break out. And so, therefore, I can take a massive risk here because I know that this breakout is going to hold and we won't just wick the high. And it's because it's impossible that Bitcoin will go down to 77% at 23K. That is absurd. It's absurd to even think Bitcoin could ever even come back to here, because never before has Bitcoin ever done that without going down 77%. So therefore, Bitcoin cannot even do this. That's essentially the types of trade theses I see people putting out in their head, and it makes zero sense. It's like, so anyways, that being said, you could kind of do the same thing with alts here. You could kind of say, like, because Bitcoin is bullish and like it looks like we're gonna, and I would agree, it looks pretty good for Bitcoin to travel towards all-time highs. If all this holds up, then you could kind of say, well, if Bitcoin goes to all-time highs and beyond, then altcoins are probably going to follow with some kind of strong move, and so therefore, like, the bottom is in. But it's like, I don't know if that's the best way to approach this. I mean, I'm kind of having the opposite feeling, which is when I look at Bitcoin kind of looks sort of good, but when I start looking at some of these alts, some of them look pretty good on a retest, like another retest of this low. ETH, another, I mean, this looks better to me, but it just kind of looks ridiculous for this, but it's a possibility, I guess, without spending a little bit more time. Like, can we ever find a low that led into a significant impulse that really is this on this time frame without spending some time down here? Like, even this is like, we're here, right? Like, chop around and then impulse, or it just doesn't look, it's just not likely. To me, it's just not likely that this is just going to V-shape. It's possible, it's just not likely. But the only reason you would start to think, for me, the only reason you would start to think it's likely is sort of the logical, maybe it's a logical fallacy, maybe it's a paradox of thinking that, well, if this all holds up on Bitcoin, and Bitcoin chart doesn't look so bad for this, well, what are alts going to do? Alts are just going to go down as Bitcoin blasts through all-time highs if the bullish scenarios on Bitcoin play out? No, so therefore the bullish scenarios on all these alts are more likely, but I don't really think I'm going to go down that mental justification for thinking the bottom is in on alts. It more just makes me think that the bottom isn't in without more ranging on Bitcoin, frankly. I do not like answering questions like that. Someone says, how likely is ETH to get back to 4K or all-time highs again? I don't know. 5%, 100%. Doesn't really matter. I mean, it matters if you're just bag holding and just hoping that, we go to 4K again and you want to get out of break even. Obviously, a lot of people bought up here, but no one knows. So, like, it depends why you're asking the question. But what I would just say is that, like, we're in a strong downtrend. I would say this is interesting. I would say that, frankly, this isn't impossible and even that unlikely if this downtrend continues just to go down to $900. There's probably some nice tradable ideas into these lows. But, if some of the more bear scenarios on Bitcoin play out, like, this probably gets run pretty easily with the big wick to the downside. And then V-shape from there maybe looks a little bit better. But but I mean, trading is about defining a setup and risk, right? So if you're gonna look at trading ETH here, I'm just gonna sample setup here towards this as a range, and you're just saying, well, if we come down to these lows, I'm gonna take a long, and my invalidation is gonna be here. I'm gonna size appropriately, and I'm gonna trade it up to all-time highs. I mean, and probably, you know, if you're looking at that, then you're also looking at this as an alternate setup. Probably something like this, back to all-time highs, and just look at this as a big range. And you scribble a bunch. But let me just say also, like, when you ask a question, how likely is ETH to get back to 4K or all-time highs? What even makes you think I have a way to answer that? Or anyone does? Like, I could say 34.9%. I think there's nice ideas into these lows, maybe a bit of a range here, something like that. Kind of like similar to this on Bitcoin back in 2021. Yes, we could just V-shape from here, but anyways, I think it's just about watching what is happening. I mean, it looks kind of bad if this all breaks down. This looks kind of likely if all if all this breaks down. Well, I mean, ETH, and like literally this starts happening, it's like ETH is probably on its way to like this. I think a lot of people forget that what ETH did in 2018 through to, like, we traded back down. This isn't an old enough chart to sub $100. I'm not claiming that that's going to happen again. Go to regular scale. It's just think about it like this. ETH is at the price right now. It is at the price that it was at in 2018, and it went from $1,400. I mean, it just touched the price. It went from $1,400 back down to $70. It went from $1,400 to $70. And so just, I know, I'm not saying it's likely, I'm not saying it's whatever, but like, what if we go from $1,400 to $70 again? Whatever. I'm just saying, it's like, I have no idea how likely it is for 4K to come, but I'll say this, it's nice to know what the point of the question is, because are you bag holding ETH from 4K? You want to get out break even? Like, what are you trying to do with the answer? Like, what am I answering here in your head with the question? Because I'll just say this, look at the chart, and especially if you have serious money at risk in ETH, let's not talk about what could happen, what might happen, what the chance of all-time highs or 10K, whatever it is. Let's just talk about what is happening. This is happening. I mean, we're at support. People told me I was insane, literally insane, to think when I posted at around here, 3,800, 4K, that Bitcoin could ever go back to 2K again. Like, I'm delusional. And now we're trading at 1,200, or 1,400, but anyways, it's just like, and again, people would just say it's delusional now to think that ETH isn't going to just go back towards all-time highs out of here, and I'm not so convinced. I think, like, I don't know. I think there's nice trade setups in here, but you need to define the risk. And anyone who thinks you don't need to define the risk, and whatever. I mean, be back here in 2018 and take a long setup or take something in here at $700, and then price goes to sub $100, and you're basically trading down here for years, right? Literally years. And yes, you could say eventually you pumped and you came out okay, but a trader who makes their living trading isn't sitting in a loss position with their net worth underwater for 5 years. They'll go work at McDonald's, I guess. And they could just be trading other things. I've been asked to look at FET, and I will. Yeah. There's a part of me that I just don't care about FET that much. I mean, like, I know maybe people are interested. I should make a new rule. Like, if you ask about a chart, like, tell me, like, are you looking for a trade, to take a trade? Are you just looking for, like, what would be an interesting long setup? Or are you, I'm underwater, or I'm bag holding, I'm 80% down. Are we going to go to all-time highs? Should I just take the loss now? Like, what is the point of the question? Because one thing that people do is they're not trading. They're not taking technical trade setups. Like, they're not saying, let's just say, oh, I think this looks interesting on FET. I think it looks kind of interesting to short this high. You know, target these lows, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Target this low. I think this looks interesting. TP in here somewhere, and then let the rest run, and maybe take a swing long off of that. But they're not taking this setup. They're saying, okay, I'm in a loss here at $1.30 or $3, and I've been sitting. He's saying it's going to go back down to 30 cents. I'm just gonna close my position and wait for 30 cents. And then this happens, and they say, what the fuck? I thought you said we're rejecting from 80 cents. There's a huge difference between trading a technical structured setup and then trying to just manage some fucked up position you're in with someone's trade setup. It doesn't make any sense. So I think it's important. But anyways, my thoughts on FET is, for one, it doesn't look really so bad compares to so many alt charts. It looks just like, it doesn't look like this, which is basically what every meme coin chart does. It's kind of holding just like generally trending structure, and I've kind of noted that in a previous live stream, I think. You have a big range idea, which is what I've highlighted here, which is if you just pull there's like a new hotkey that I have no idea what I'm even pressing, and it does something really messed up on my chart. Probably could have just clicked this. I think looking at this as a range and a trend are probably the best ways to go. Range, probably, like if I'm looking for long setups, it's probably into this. Short setups, it's probably into these highs. If it's a really prolonged range, this is really prolonged, you know, maybe you see something like that, and then this low coming at 15 cents back into the middle of the range. So like this structure, either holding for the bullish ideas, maybe looking for rejection into this local range, and for the bearish ideas, for much deeper, targeting or looking for longs down at this low. And that's kind of my opinion. If there's a lot of new context here, you know, then you're going to update the I've already covered Doge. I trade stocks as well. I want to take a look at Bitcoin's order flow really quick. No, crypto's not easier to trade. I mean, it's all kind of the same thing, but it's 24/7, really volatile. It's nice to trade, but so it says I'm bag holding FET from $1 spot. That's why I asked and want to know if there are potentials for it to go up or back to the graveyard, and considering adding some again to lower my average. Yeah, so I think I'm just, it's not for that situation, it's not the right it's just the way I approach the market, it's just not right for you because you're essentially, you know, you're in at $1. You're in at $1 and you're kind of so you're down about, you know, 30%, and you're kind of trying to decide, it's sort of the scenario I gave you, like you're trying to decide, do you get out on this pump? Do you keep bag holding? Is it bullish? Are we going to go back up to all-time highs or beyond? And of course, if you close here, you know, at a smaller loss with the thought of this, like what I described, then you're really disappointed if this happens, and you could have gotten out here. And if you close here at you know 20% win, looking for something down here, and then this happens, and you're really pissed off. And it's like, or if you don't close because you think these highs are going to come and these lows come, then you wish you had. You're kind of just stuck in a situation where you're just sort of trying to make decisions based on a spot position you have, and where, like, I would rather be in the situation where I'm just in a trade that is defined, right? And I'm just either in it or out of it. And, you know, if I'm longing down here. And if we don't come down here, I don't really care. And I'm waiting for new structure to form. Because there's a big difference. I actually gave this, wow, I just hit that hotkey again. I gave this exact scenario yesterday on X, where, you know, I kind of quoted, like, people like will say, like, do you think this breakout's gonna hold? Do you think this? Do you think this? And it's like, who knows? Like, just take the trade if you want. And then Main commented, I think a lot of people who ask these questions are really just want to know because they're bag holding, and they want to know if you think they're gonna get out or should get out or get out at break even or hold till they're in profit. That's not how trading works. Like, if I say, oh, here's a nice range, whatever, here's a nice range, I want to short the highs of the range and I want to long the lows of the range, and say it's the 30-minute chart. Somebody will say, what do you think about this coin? And I say, well, what I think is I'm going to try a short up here. I think it looks nice, a rejection, and I think, you know, targeting here, but my overall bias is, you know, I like the idea of coming down another 40% if we break down this range and run all these lows, and I want to take a swing along down here. So what they do, but if we hold this up, it could be kind of bullish, and if this local range holds, what they say, okay, screw it, I'm gonna get out of my position here that I'm holding from way up here, and then this happens, and you're not understanding that this trade setup is not a prediction about price. And you shouldn't use just, like, people will just randomly use just a random technical trade setup to make their long-term trading decisions, and it's all backwards at that point, right? It's like using a short setup in a range to take a 80% loss on your altcoin position that you bought at the top. And then be like, what? This is BS when the range breaks out. Okay, so OI says, what do you think about what to do with ETH spot? Okay, so same things, like Fet guy asking what to do with Fet spot, ETH spot. Is that support but keeps failing? A dollar cost average for years, roughly break even, but round tripped a lot. Yeah, it's like, I don't know. I mean, I'll say this, just like with the absolute most basic perspective here, is now the time to just like dollar cost average for years, and then like get out here? No, but do you want to hear someone say we can go back to all-time highs? I mean, if this all holds up, it doesn't look so bad. This is a possibility. I think it's probably more likely than not that we come back up to all-time highs at some point. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have some posts basically from here. Like, I took a lot of longs on alts that were like Doge and XRP, and they performed pretty well for these big rallies. And I basically said in here, like, I'm so uninterested in ETH. Like, I don't even care about ETH. It's like I have a dedicated ETH channel in the Discord, and I basically just said, like, I mean, I think ETH, my thesis was that ETH comes back down to 2K here, and I think ETH looked really weak and whatever, but it's just hard for me to even care of all the things I could be trading. And the only reason, I feel like the only reason I have to keep talking about ETH is because it's so popular and everybody has positions and it's not doing anything, and so everyone's like, yeah, ETH, and it's like, I don't care about ETH. The only reason I feel like I even have to talk about it is because everybody else cares about it, but it's like, if of all the things I could be trading, you know, and looking for longs on, and really care about everything that's happening with it, I have no regrets that ETH just wasn't it for me. And I understand people are holding it and they want more out of it, and it's really let down people's expectations. And maybe, you know, if it's ever going to start doing anything out of here, probably somewhere from here, like you're probably more likely to be capitulating the bottom rather than selling before another huge leg down somewhere in here. No, I don't really care about NFTs. For me, the most, if I had to build my personal tier list for alts, it's Dogecoin, XRP, ADA, Litecoin. And I can put my time into building really nice positions on those, or I don't know what's going to happen with any coins, right? I mean, I presume if the bullish scenarios in the longer term over the next year that I think are more likely than not on Bitcoin and these other alts play out, that I presume ETH is going to go up, and it might even go up a lot. I mean, this is sort of the time where you would think ETH could start performing well again. I think it starts to get kind of interesting in here, frankly. But boy, oh boy, like the ETH BTC chart, so bad. Just like anywhere you kind of thought like there could be some signs of strength, literally just the most bearish thing happens. Okay, I guess I cannot click. It's Control Z I'm pressing. Control Z I'm pressing, and somehow that rescales my chart to something ridiculous. But this is ETH BTC. I mean, it's like, it's just everything just flipped. This is the 7-day chart, by the way, but flips, rejects. Like there's no strength anywhere. It's just so bad. And now we're coming down to like, you know, the lows, so to speak, of ETH BTC. BTC gets another run down or a rally in ETH this week. Maybe this starts getting taken. Yeah, I mean, probably looking for some kind of strength eventually out of Bitcoin or ETH. But you're kind of trying to pick the bottom here too on ETH BTC. I just said I wasn't going to press that button again. I have no idea why Control Z is now scaling my chart and inverting it. Or maybe that's just because I guess that's maybe the last thing. All right, well, I don't even have to be on this chart anyways. But just for the fun of it, I'm going to get back down to But nothing I say, I'll say this, zero IQ redact, is nothing I say will ever be really actionable for you in your position. Like, you've been buying ETH, dollar cost averaging for years, you have a big spot position, and it's just, I don't know. I mean, I say ETH has been incredibly weak. It's in a strong downtrend. Could that trend reverse? Could that trend break? Yes. Could it be on its way to breaking right now? And we're heading back towards all-time highs, of course. But I don't have the risk. I'm not invested. I don't care. I mean, like if I can say a lot of things, I can just say like, you know, I think this looks nice. I think this looks nice. I'm gonna set some alerts, and if it ever comes, you know, I would consider trading and putting some risk, and that looks nice. And then someone says, but what if this happens to ETH? It's like, okay, well, I missed it. I don't really care. I have zero emotional investment. I don't care. Anything can happen. I'll trade some setups if they look good and take the stops if they aren't working. And so anyways, my opinion is a strong downtrend, but I'm not invested in the outcome here. And it's not like I'm like, oh, this is the best setup in the world to get long on ETH. If some of this happens, I'll probably be considering it. Does that make sense? Yeah, I just want to see something. Oh wait, I thought reset chart view and double clicking this were the exact same thing. I guess they're different. Do I usually don't take or use hard stops anymore? I essentially always have a hard stop. I don't always take a hard stop, but I always have a hard stop. I mean, if you're going to sleep and you're not running some kind of hard stop and risk management, then the other thing is you can take trades like whatever. I mean, this happens and you're like, I'll put on some risk. For the strong continuation, I'll get exposed, put on a bit of risk, and if it doesn't work, then that's fine. There's just so many ways to get long, but sitting here and thinking that either the big short setup for a higher low or whatever is like you got to make that decision or get long doesn't seem like the most likely thing. I don't know. I'll say this: my bias is just towards something in here that leads to a new low. It looks still so wrong to me, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to take longs. But it just looks so wrong to me in some ways. It's going to start looking a lot more right if we break out of all-time highs. For this to be our major low, but it just looks like you have to get bullish here, but you shouldn't. And the stock market's basically coming to major resistance. Probably what happens here matters a little bit. Like, do we reject in here? But alts, it looks literally ridiculous on some of these alt charts just to think that like a strong trend is going to start without some more of this, but who knows? That's probably a joke. Zinyak says, I lost my wife in custody to my son because I was all in Vine at the top. And then says, when Bitcoin moon. Someone asking, do you actually have a couple setups that you take over and over? Or do you just intuitively take trades with good risk management? I take mostly just the same setups. I mean, my trades are mostly structured similarly. It's all, everything's like shorthand, for example. Like, it's not that everything is literally identical, but you're looking for like grinding, trending price action for some aggressive trending trades, and ranges, lower highs, retracements. Like I think for the bullish case here, it's like we're here, right? We're at something like this where we've kind of double bottomed. We've put in impulse, and we're looking for this, and then we're looking for continuation. I mean, I bet if I pull a fractal here, it's basically this type of price action. and we're kind of saying we're here. And you're coming back down. I mean, I bet I could find this. Basically same thing over and over again. So you have these local lows, consolidation, breakout, impulse, come take the lows, and then, you know, here we traded sideways for a while, and then impulsed off of them. I think that was into the GP as well, GP region. It's yeah. Someone's saying, can you explain your tariff tweet again? Well, as you know, I'm a fundamentals macro economy genius, global trade economist. So it is my expertise. That's a joke, of course. But yeah, my opinion is basically, it's pretty, like the narrative that China's pulled one over on the US by somehow becoming this manufacturing superpower is ridiculous. I mean, the US explicitly built China into what it is today as a manufacturing powerhouse. It's, I would argue, just quite literally the biggest and most prolific economic partnership that two countries have ever had in the history of Earth. And now to suddenly act like, what the heck? This is ridiculous. We're buying way more iPhones from China than they buy from us. Is stupid. I mean, like acting like it's like China hoodwinked us, right? But it's no. China's did exactly what they were required to do for that trade partnership. And I see China, this is my conspiracy, my conspiracy mindset. I see the US and China as massive allies. And I think what's essentially happened here is when we start implementing all these tariffs, and people are like, it kind of look at it as like, it's like probably some people who are in support of it look at it as almost like a patriotic thing. Like, yeah, we're going to tariff China and screw China. But I mean, the cost of, and they think like, oh, we're going to move manufacturing outside of China back to the US. That's almost certainly not going to happen. Like, this is what I think is going to happen. I think we're just going to end up with the U.S. paying taxes through the form of tariffs on almost everything they buy. It's just like, and Trump might be saying, like, it's kind of like when they introduced the income tax, it's like, it's not going to be permanent. But Trump might be saying, oh, I'm going to get rid of the income tax. Yes, you're going to pay tariffs, but we're going to be making, let's just think about this logically. If we're going to be making so much money through tariffs, we are going to be making so much money through tariffs. That means we're going to be paying a shit ton of tariffs, right? You can't make so much money through tariffs if you're not paying a shit ton of tariffs. And that means the manufacturing is not going to be coming back to the United States. If it was, then we wouldn't be making so much money through tariffs. And then the thing is, we'll be making so much money that we're going to remove the income tax. Oh, so don't worry. Everything you buy is going to go way up in price. You're going to be paying a massive tax on it through the form of tariffs. But you won't pay income taxes. I just think we'll pay income taxes. And we'll also pay massive tariffs. And, the only recourse, again, would be to say, you don't want to pay a 50% tariff on your iPhone? Well, make your own iPhones then. And make your iPhones in the U.S., buddy. It's like, it's not going to happen. So It's not like we can just all of a sudden start manufacturing everything we buy in China from the U.S. And yeah, I don't think probably the tariffs are going to end up at 300%, but 20, 30, 40, 50% tariffs. I'm pretty skeptical. It's kind of just like it's like insulting to just the average person's intelligence, in my opinion, to pretend that any of this makes any sense, right? Like saying our trade deficit with China, because we buy more things from China, that they're screwing us. It's like, hey, China, we want you to make a bunch of shit for us that we're going to buy for really cheap, paying people $200 a month to work 15 hours a day making iPhones, and we're going to manufacture everything there because it's so cheap, and then we're going to be pissed off when you aren't buying the equal amount of iPhones from us. We don't make iPhones. We don't make any of the things we buy from you. We've literally set you up as the global manufacturer for everything that nobody else can compete with, and then we're saying that we're mad about that, and we're gonna add a tariff on everything that comes from you, but still probably just end up buying everything from you. I think that's a big pulling one over on the American citizen. They're just going to end up paying tariffs. I know this is exactly what you guys are here for, too, to hear my opinions on tariffs. I mostly trade Bitcoin, day trading, intraday. I'm always interested in trading Bitcoin, and I've kind of picked some alts. Yeah, and for those saying, so I appreciate it that Easy Capital says pretty insightful. Actually, Vita says I appreciate the tariff knowledge. What do I really know about it? I mean, nothing. I'm not like an expert on the subject, but that's my version of common sense. It's like the question isn't going to be like, you just have to ask yourself two things. Did we intentionally build China into the manufacturing powerhouse it is today? Were we allies in that endeavor, or did they somehow, against all our efforts? I mean, I've been saying this for years. I've been saying this for 10 years. Against all our best efforts, they somehow became this our biggest enemy became this manufacturing superpower that we rely on for everything we consume. Or did we just do that on purpose with them? Like, that's not an accident. They didn't trick us. Like, we did that on purpose. Well saying they're our enemy. Say, oh, China, we got to be careful of China. They're our enemy. While we built China into what it is today, I'm saying we, the U.S., the Western trade partners. It's like just insulting to think that we were so worried about that being the case when we literally incentivized it and made it happen in every way we possibly could have. And then now to act like it's some big surprise, and that I think what's really going to happen is just the manufacturing we can't compete even with the tariffs. So instead of like having more expensive goods produced in the range of like 70-80% more expensive in the US, we'll just have slightly cheaper, but most of it is the cost difference is just a tax, instead of going to private manufacturers. So, for example, let's just say I'm just spitting out random bullshit math, but let's just say it costs $3 to make a T-shirt that you can sell for $10 in $3 in China, $10 here. Now we're gonna pay $5 for the T-shirt, and we're gonna pay double, $6, $5, $6. Half of it's gonna be a tariff, and it would have cost $7 or $8 or $9, $8, let's say, to make it in the U.S. So we're paying an extra. We're saving $2 instead of $5. We're saving as the consumer, but the difference is being paid as taxes instead of going to a U.S. Based T-shirt maker, because they still can't quite compete. Something like that. But that said, I mean, you could make the argument that the U.S. kind of needs to do something. They need to do something because they're also so screwed and in debt. If they want to make it through that, I mean, they need to start going the other way. So, but it's hard to trust. I would say, trust them with their track record. And the U.S. is almost like a third world country at this point. Like comparing walking around like the San Francisco major cities to any major city anywhere, especially China. I really don't. By the way, I don't trade based off of anything like that. Like I have an opinion. I would trade off of just technical things, but I have an opinion on the subject, and some things to me are just so blatant, like it's hard not to have a strong opinion. But of course, I might be completely wrong. I'm not going to talk about how much returns I do annually, percentage, all that stuff. All right. Right now, Bitcoin's rejecting from the 618 local ranging price action. I kind of wanted to see if we would break through this, because you could kind of imagine the highs coming relatively quickly. But this is just typical ranging behavior. If we break this down, well, you got to think some of this plays. I've never seen this spam. There's so many bots spamming this, like, this whatever pre-sale scam token. I'm kind of joking about the U.S. being a third world country, but it's a lot of the major cities. It's rough. It's rough compared to other places in the world. Like, it doesn't feel like the richest, most prosperous country in the world, is what I would say. Like, and it hasn't in a long time. Like the most innovative, prosperous, best place in the world to live doesn't really give those feelings being there. Anyways, well, I guess to sum it all up, I mean, clear the levels. It's kind of something in here, and I could see this playing out for a while. You know, maybe put in something like this. Let's have highs. We have highs. We have levels in here, the GP, the POC, and this is all a region to me, taking these highs. And this is sort of the major primary idea into these lows for a long setup. And I'm still kind of leaning towards this being on the table, frankly, but it's not going to stop me from taking profits on shorts and taking long setups for the higher low setups. Then obviously if this starts trending and gets kind of bullish, might even look for some ads to longs there. If this just breaks out, well then, I mean, if this happens, we're just going through all-time highs. I mean, and we might go through a lot, we might go through a bit, probably get something in here, but it's like this is all just a complete change in context. It's kind of like if you're in a range, at some point you just stop thinking about the range you were in. And everything in that range, and you just start thinking about all the new price action forming. I mean, the same thing happens here, right? Because at some point you're out of this range and you're starting to think about everything happening in here more than you're thinking about everything in here. And if we break out of the range, I mean, that's sort of just we're in price discovery, and even up there, there's long setups. I mean, there's long setups in here. There's long setups in here after the breakouts. Obviously, this turned into a big range. I will note there is, I'll just put it on here. There's kind of a channel here. It's a little bit. It's a little bit iffy. Something to think about. I don't think it's that important. I mean, without the channel, you just have all the major horizontal stuff up here. Someone asking, what does order flow show? Just local order flow here. I mean, obviously, we see lots of shorts getting squeezed out, some aggressive longs opening, some aggressive positioning around the highs. In the context of the range, a little bit of aggressive positioning around these highs at the GP, like you have bearish divergences against these local highs forming, at least on BTC, USDT. This last touch was actually 74 million. Yeah, you're not. Oh, actually, there's, yes, right here, actually, this is like 69 million, 22 million on the long side. That's actually a pretty big trapped position there. That's a pretty big trap position. So yeah, I would say the order flow, I mean, at these highs is quite bearish. Like, you're probably expecting some of that to resolve down into these lows, but we're kind of in a ranging environment here on the chart locally, and we had some really big aggressive longs open at the local 618 here, and they're trapped underwater, starting to unwind a little bit. I don't talk about the specifics of what I make or how much I don't make. But I post almost every trade I take in the Discord. Not every single trade, but almost every single trade. And I don't care if what you know about my track record or not. I mean, it really doesn't matter. I can set up and explain my trades and what I'm doing and why, and the concepts I'm using. And if you think those concepts are useful or not, you can utilize them. What I can tell you is I don't think like my philosophy with something like the Discord has always been, it literally doesn't matter if I'm printing top 1% returns. If people are signing up in the Discord to become profitable traders themselves, when my trading performance, I mean, it still happens all the time, right? I'm in a trade, somebody says, I took the trade, but I closed it, and I missed the whole move, or I didn't cut the trade, or whatever it is. But my trading performance is not just going to translate to every person who's implementing the same things I do. There's so much more. There's so much more that goes into trading. And that's why like the Discord is way more comprehensive than just trading setups. But what I can tell you is with thousands of members through the Discord, there's a testimonials channel. There's a lot of these members still in here. There's literally hundreds of testimonies from members. There's people joining, leaving their own testimonies. I mean, some of them, if they're gracious enough, you could talk to them. I'm taking mostly, many of them similar trading setups or the same setups as I'm taking. And testimony after testimony of, I've traded for 3 years, the first time I've ever been consistently profitable, up 150% in 3 months. I was reluctant about this. Just people posting testimony after testimony of not taking profitable trades, saying, oh, I want to trade, but major transformations in their trading. Well, I'll just say, you can go, I mean, you can go into the Discord, RHX, and just talk to people in the Discord. There's literally hundreds of members in the Discord. Like, these aren't fake. These are literally all real people in the Discord every single day who are taking the time to tell their experience in the Discord and what they're getting from it. And it's sort of like what are you exactly trying to get, right? Out of something like this, right? There's literally nothing. Good night, Elway. Yeah, there's literally nothing relevant about me showing, like, for example, I shared a 300 trade, and I think I maybe even shared 1,000 trades of all of scalps. I shared like all the trade data and like low time frame scalps. I shared it in an Excel spreadsheet a while ago. Okay. Whoa. He made 300% scalping the 15-second chart over 1,000 trades. It's like, what does that do? How much work is it for me to translate that into something that just somebody can sign up and start learning things and implementing things that transform their trading? There's almost no, I think they're two completely different things, right? So I personally don't think it matters. Because I can't, if every single this is the way I put it. If every single member's testimony was, bro, I joined and this sucks. Like, I'm not improving, no changes in my trading. You know, all I'm doing is, but he keeps showing me, like, look how much money he's making. He shows me his track record. He shows me all the trades he took. He showed all 1,000 of his last scalps. He showed all of this. He showed all of that, and he's winning. But all the testimonies were just. But I'm not learning anything. I'm not improving as a trader. It wouldn't matter, right? People wouldn't say, well, at least you're learning from someone who's you've seen all their track record. All that matters for members is that they're growing as traders, right? Like, no one would let me just say, listen, everybody hates being in the Discord and everybody thinks it's awful and nobody has left a positive review instead of literally probably 99% positive reviews over 4 years. Major, like, these reviews read fake, some of them, but they're real people. You can talk to them. Like, you've changed my life, that type of thing. But anyways, no one would think it's reasonable for me to just say, well, who cares? I mean, look at my track record. And so that's why there's other reasons I'm not going to share it, personal reasons I'm not going to share it, but I also don't think it matters. And I don't think if all these testimonies were just people saying it's the worst place ever, that it would be accepted as an explanation or an excuse for that, for all the other work that goes into the Discord, for me just to keep flashing P&Ls and just say, well, get good, because it literally doesn't matter. I personally, I mean, I'm just gonna, yeah, that's just my opinion. I mean, I personally think you'd be better off to go read the experience of any one of these hundreds of testimonies, or all of them, to get a sense of what it is and what you're getting out of it. And how, like, you're gonna, read testimonies with some people, I've been trading for 10 years and this is the best blah 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 blah, or I'm a brand new trader, or I've been trading for 1 year. Some of those situations are going to apply differently to you, but I mean, this is, to me, all that really matters. There's actually something that's really interesting about this, which is, I've seen some criticism, even in my Discord, of some of you probably are familiar with him, some of you aren't, Moneytar, about like, oh, it just sounds so cryptic or BS, or like people just follow him like a sheep or whatever, like just whatever the criticisms might be. And I'm sure some of those various criticisms have been applied to me, maybe, right, that are similar. But one of the things that I think is just undeniable is, like, you go through his comment section, and it's not just people like, oh, everybody just, is sucking him off. You go through his comment section, and it's just like hundreds and hundreds of comments of people saying, I've completely changed my life. Right? It's like I've never made money trading. I'm now making this consistently. Last 6 months I've made this. I've transitioned to a full-time trader. All these different things, but you're not. And his posts get, hundreds and hundreds of likes, thousands of likes from a pretty small, like, dedicated follower group. And for me, it's like, that is evidence of the value, right? It's the best evidence. It's the best evidence of what he's doing is changing people's lives, because I think most people don't understand how rare and difficult it is to join something, a movement, following a philosophy, or joining something like the Discord or whatever, and that translating to you making astronomical changes to your trading performance in a short amount of time, a couple months. People literally in here trading for 5 years, 4 years, never profitable for any consistent amount of time, completely changing the trajectory of their trading career. But anyways, it's just that you don't realize how rare it is to have these kind of to be in an environment where you can make this kind of progress as whether a new or experienced trader. Especially, I'm just going to say, toot my own horn about the Discord. It literally translates for brand new and experienced traders. And so anyways, what I would say about Money Tar is, like, you can't deny, like, what do you want? You want to read through hundreds of people or thousands of people telling you, like, this is my story, this changed my life, this is my story, this changed my life. And knowing that such a small percentage of people that will ever succeed in trading, and you just can read hundreds of people say it, and then just be like, well, like, just deny that there's something there. There's something there that's, and I hopefully this doesn't come across as claiming that Money Tar community is a cult, but I was making a comment about someone was talking about it, and I just said, it's like people were saying, like, the sort of, like, it's almost like a religious sort of, like, belief, and there's something powerful about believing that. Like, if you treated your trading rules as a religion, like, you believed it, like you believed in, like, the most fervent, religious belief could be, that, like, you will not go against these rules. You will, that type of thinking, treating it like a religion, having a religious belief in something, can actually be a benefit if it's the right thing, even if it's not, like, not exactly true, not, like, perfectly true. But anyways, I would just say that, like, people kind of getting turned off by how bought in, and this can of course apply to me. Like, I literally post some of the testimonies I get, and I'm like I tell them, this looks fake. Like, because it looks stupid. Like, it's like somebody's like, I just want to tell you, I've been trading for 3 years, never had any progress. In the last 3 weeks, I've completely changed my life. I've never seen anything like this, done anything like this. And then somebody else will respond to them, I know, I can't believe how amazing this is. Don't you just wish you could be here forever? And they'll be like, I do wish I could be here forever. I hope I never have to leave. And that interaction looks fake. But the point is, people's lives are being changed. And I think it's, instead of being turned off by, like, the fervency of their followers and their community, kind of look at it as a bit of a signal, depending on what they're saying, right? All right. Just because I just went on this non-trading related rant, I mean, non-technically based trading related rant. Jonathan, you've been around for a while. Jonathan Boldy says, yeah, LCA and MT literally changed my life. Another testimonial, haha. But yeah, I mean, if I was especially just a new trader trying to kind of sort what is valuable and what isn't, it's just, the good thing is about something like my community or Money Tars or someone's, is just, it's been around for a while. There's so many people that have come through the doors and shared what they thought. Just see what people have to say about it. Like, if you're the best doctor in the world and you open up a doctor school, I call it a doctor school, and your track record is that nobody who's come through your school has ever successfully become a doctor, and everybody says it sucks, then it doesn't really matter. thing that really matters is that people come to your school and they become great doctors. It's not enough just to be good at something. You also have to be good at inspiring people and teaching people. And I think they're two completely different things. What do you think about Quelimagi? Are you familiar with his trading style? Yeah, I'm familiar with it as far as what's publicly available and has been talked about. I think it's fine. I mean, it's literally two sides of the same coin in a way. Like, you're in the trade one way for the same reason, you're not in it for the other way. I mean, most trades are. Like, if you're a breakout trader, like, I'll just say this. There's I don't really want to talk about this too much because I kind of want to do this as a different series, but all right. So it's like if I'm I kind of want to, I have kind of some plans about how I want to approach this subject. It's kind of long-term brewing, but you have just something like this where you're shorting a downtrend, and you could be saying, like, if this breaks, if this downtrend breaks, this major downtrend, there's obviously higher time frame on non-log. There's also a lower time frame downtrend here. It's all kind of the same thing into these highs, and we break out and we're claiming these highs. But I have to cut my swing shorts here. Why? Because all of this comes so quickly in most scenarios. Like, a break of all this structure, you can't be sitting swing short because price can just move through this area of the chart really quickly. And so I'm cutting my short here. I'm cutting it because this is what is kind of happening. And while we're breaking out and claiming all these levels, and then you might even say, and here, we're starting to see really aggressive shorts coming in. We're starting to see whatever it is, right? Whatever it is. And you might have ideas for shorting as a range. Well, Quelimagi would have taken this trade. There's something like this. There's something about if you could be telling people, you could be in a short here and you could say, I'm cutting my short here because the most bullish thing that could possibly be happening in the context of this short idea is happening, right? And these are all the reasons I'm cutting it, and this or whatever. And they say, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Don't be short. But unless you say, and I'm taking a long. If you say, and I'm taking a long, it's like, obviously, yes, of course. Why wouldn't I take a long? Why wouldn't I take a long? For all the reasons I'm cutting my short, the most bullish thing is happening here, and here's my risk is defined, is whatever. If you don't say you're taking the trade, but you give all of the reasons why you wouldn't be in the short here, and they're all good enough reasons to take a long, there's a certain type of person that just can't take the trade. They don't see it. They only see the trade as a trade if you just say it, right? But I think it's a lot of things. It's about risk. It's about whatever, right? I just find it kind of interesting. But anyways, the point is, like, Quelimagi might trade something like this, right? If you're ranging here and this breaks out, it's going to trade something like this. And for the same reason, if it's not breaking out, it might be a range, and if whatever. So but yeah, something like this trade, for instance, like if you're saying, well, if the range is breaking out and we're claiming all these highs and moving towards these highs, and I don't want to be short for those reasons, and I wouldn't be short again unless we, if we can fall back into the range or whatever, short for targeting this structure, you'd take a long. Just set it set it up for all the reasons you're out of your short and all the things that you would need to see to get back into a short, and you can probably cut it here and take a partial if you start seeing some weakness. Oh, I want to answer the SR flip question. How do you spot a good SR flip? Well, a good SR flip, there's probably a few ways to think about SR flips. One is, first you got, let me go to the 4-hour chart here. First you have to identify previous support. I like very much, isn't there a beautiful SR flip here? I like first touches are kind of interesting, but sweeping previous highs, there were a lot of SR flips. This was an SR flip, but didn't make a new low. But anyways, a lot of times you'll have kind of two ways SR flips play out, which is just single touch rejection or kind of a double tap or a sweep. And so first off, you know, if you see a breakdown of a level and then a sharp reversal into the level, I think looking for setups like into the first touch is fine. And hopefully maybe looking for some confluence there. Like you could see here, like we take a local high. And so you kind of have this idea of like shorting the SR retest, like this as well. The other idea, like, so you have a big sharp reaction. I mean, where is, if there's anywhere on this chart, where is the SR flip? Right here. I mean, this is it, right? Lines right with the local 618. If you're gonna be trading an SR, it's here. And now, if the question is, how do you know the SR is gonna hold? You don't. I mean, that's why you just use risk management. You give it a little bit of room to breathe. And if you're trading an SR flip, you know, TPs into local lows, whatever it is, and targeting for the full position down to the lows, I mean, you're kind of, a good SR flip is one that holds. And if it's breaking out and claiming the SR, then you probably just want out the trade. It's not a clean SR flip. You'd be surprised how often you see relatively clean or very clean SR flips. Another thing I don't mind is holding, is having this, like this, and then the sweep of a local high into the SR flip. This one front ran a little bit. And then just using this as your trigger. I think this is probably the most straightforward. Like you have a front run, a range, you push up. Again, this was a slight front run. And then when price breaks back below, you just short with your stop above the new high. I think that's the most straightforward way to think of SR flips. This, I was interested in looking at this SR level on ETH, but we just ripped through it. So, I mean, anything can happen here on ETH, but this is just not a clean SR flip. Even on the low time frames, I'm pretty sure we just ran straight through the SR. Like, it's just, if you're watching this level approaching for this SR and you're even on the low time frames, one, you don't really have any structure here. You have some structure up a little bit further. None of these highs are particularly close, but this being the high, price just literally rips straight through it. It's not really even a question, I think, of whether or not that's just like a really nice clean SR's idea. It could reject, but I mean, it's nice to have some confluences. I mean, right now, like if we look at the S&P mini, we're getting a bit of a local rejection here. We have the SR. It's a bit of a region, granted. But we have the idea of taking the previous high. So we have that part of the structure intact, and we have the trending structure, and those are some nice confluences. We have wait, is this let's run through a little bit. But anyways, we have the GP region here. Probably if we pull from here, but at this point, I mean, you could pull fibs. You could say like, oh, it's the 0.5 or whatever, but I think just the structure is pretty simple, and it's really just well defined. Where you say, all right, well, if price fails to break this high, similar to price reclaiming this, that can be a long setup into the high, and this probably can be a short setup into the trend. Invalidation up above here, maybe give a little bit of room for this area of the chart, but. I missed a few little comments. I'll just note because they're nice comments. Purple Punch says, "I like you both. It's true. I'm changing my life slowly thanks to the knowledge you both share." Says I'm on this path as well. At the end of 2022 of Monitar's feed. But anyways, I guess I'll comment one other thing about Monitar, because I think it's interesting, and I know there's some crossover with, probably people following him and myself, and maybe in this live stream. But anyways, he had the inverse Titanic idea, which was, essentially, I thought I did not look into it that much, and I did actually DM him. I forget when. It was somewhere in here, because I saw some conversations going on where it's like a mix of people in the Discord being probably interested in or alluding to the whole inverse Titanic idea that he was talking about, and some people saying like all that stuff's just stupid, like oh, and I just had made a comment that, in some ways you can just say like everything is stupid. Like a trend line is stupid. What does the trend line have to do with anything? Elliot wave theory is the conspiracy theory of technical analysis. It's essentially trying to find some deep meaning, and I'm an Elliot wave fan. I'm just saying, like, if you look at it from the outside, it's like you're trying to find some deep meaning that is telling you something important about everything that price in everything price does. So like if this is this instead of this is this, and like the subwave is this, then that falls into this, which falls into this, which cascades into all the higher time frame stuff, and everything's fractal, and like if it's corrective, then this shouldn't be like this, and this should be sharper, and this is too steep, and this has come past the B, and now it's not as ABC. It looks more like it's like that is like almost unhinged, unhinged. And I'm saying that as someone who thinks Elliott wave is amazing, but I can also recognize it's like unhinged mindset that you're trying to find the meaning in everything price does, in every time frame, and how that correlates to everything else it could be or would be or might be doing. And so, when something like what Monitar is expressing with the, like at first glance, of course it's going to look like dumb. And even my thought is I have no idea, right? I have zero clue about any of it, but I also have looked into some of the astrology stuff and whatever that people use to varying success and degrees. And some of that is just unbelievable. I mean, the moon phase stuff is unbelievable, right? You just pull up the moon phase. It's so strong, and so it's just hard to believe. It's not that like you look at it and it's like it explains everything, but it's pretty strong. It's hard to look at that chart for very long and not think there's something to it. But you could also just say, what would moon phases, like just the premise. Someone says the market seems to move with the moon phases. You're just like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And I think it's easy to dismiss things that way. So anyways, I did message him in here somewhere. I asked him about it. I just said, like, I see this. I see a conversation popping up about it. You know, obviously some people are deep down that rabbit hole, and some people are just think it's the dumbest thing they've ever heard. For me, I have no opinion one way or the other about whether it's like super important or not important, because I don't know anything about it. I mean, I don't even know what the premise is based off of. Like, I understand what the point is. But anyways, he said he would get back to me. He never did. No. With what the idea was. But anyways, I understood the idea. This is the point I was going to make, which is that it was a bullish idea, and that maybe something like anything that ends up looking like a low on around the 15th could be called the inverse Titanic. So you could say, like, if we got a big dump on the 15th and then rallied off of that, or if we just impulse off of that, it's the idea being that instead of dumping around the 15th, we're putting in our lows around the 15th, sort of thing. And I made a comment just saying that it seemed clear that that was his idea. And then somebody commented something like, but if you understood the idea, why were you short here into this downtrending structure? And I think the answer is pretty clear. I can understand if somebody says, I'm bullish and I think we're going to bounce on the 15th. I understand, because people were confused if it was a bullish idea or a bearish idea. I could say, I understand that person is bullish and they think we're going to bounce on the 15th. I don't understand the significance and the reasoning that they put on this date. Like, I don't understand the idea behind it. Like, I understand there's kind of like the coded sort of texting or tweeting from Elon and other people and that sort of stuff. And but whatever. Anyways, the point is, of course, I'm not going to trade off of it because I don't understand it. I'm not saying it's not good. I'm not saying it is good. I don't understand it. I'm not going to dismiss it as just stupid. I've never taken the time to look into. In the same way that I would be, I think, wrong to dismiss moon phases and Elliot wave and all these different things as just stupid. There's a mystery in the market, I think. There's a mystery. You see too many things that you just shouldn't see to the frequency you do, and they're kind of hard to explain. And if you stare at it long enough. Now, I choose to kind of keep things grounded, even if I have some crazy ideas that float around my head sometimes. But I don't spend too much time on them. They're kind of fun, but they're, for me, there's I'm sure there's people in here that are familiar with it, some that don't know what I'm talking about, some with their own opinions. But like I said, I mean, I always say you shouldn't trade ideas that you don't understand. And of course, I understand it was a bullish idea that it could, I mean, be a pump off of here or a dump and a pump. But I don't understand the reasoning, right? It's one thing for me to say I'm taking a long or I'm taking a short, and somebody say he's taking a short because he's bearish, or he's taking a long because he's bullish, he's cutting it here because it's invalidated, and they understand what I'm doing, and another thing for them to understand why I'm doing it, right? He used to have decoding Elon's brain in his bio, so there's that. Must be done. I'm not sure. I never saw that. But anyways, like I said, you could just call anything crazy or stupid, and almost everything in trading that is kind of shockingly interesting should and could be described that way at first glance. There's like I just shared some quotes from Paul Tudor Jones. Paul Tudor Jones has expressed that he finds Elliot Wave, multi-billionaire trader, Elliot Wave, to be very interesting and utilizes it to some degree and is a big fan of Prechters. But, you have a multi-billionaire hedge fund manager, obviously. I think I actually think there's a lot of traders or money managers at that level that use a lot of these technical ideas to a much larger degree than they would care to admit to publicly. Especially, when you're managing people's money and you're kind of meant to be an expert. And imagine they find out, like, it doesn't really matter, necessarily your track record at some point. I mean, I'm sure it does. But, like imagine you find out, like, the big secret behind Jim Simon's success was moon phases, right? He's just trading moon phases. And or something like that for Paul Tudor Jones. It's like you're explaining the reason I'm long here is because we just put in this corrective pattern. We're coming off the 382 to the people's money you're managing that think you're like a macro expert, and you might be to some degree, but most of your decisions are just based off of technical ideas. I think you kind of just want to downplay that a little bit. And I think a lot of, because it sounds so stupid. Like, try to explain technical analysis in the context of something like Elliott Wave or something to just random people that know what the stock market is or whatever and how it's all the same or connected in some way. They're like, what the hell are you talking about? What? Like, you start showing them a chart of some random asset from 50 years ago and saying, like, and this is Disney stock. It sounds pretty stupid. Yeah, so that said, there's something, I've thought about, I mean, I kind of want to do this, like something, I don't know. I mean, there's something to be said about literally taking on a faith. I know this sounds stupid. But I've been thinking about this a bit, like almost like a faith-based approach to trading. Like, I'm not saying that in probably the crudest. I'm probably saying that a little too crudely, but like you should really believe that the things you're doing have like religious significance in a way. And what I mean by that, I mean it's like your trading rules, like risking too much should feel like a mortal sin. Like the rules that you're building around your trading, the rules of I'm going to take this trade if this happens. To not take it would be like committing a mortal sin. Like that's almost what you should feel. It shouldn't be wishy-washy. It shouldn't be like, oh, I don't know, it feels a little weird. Like you should believe with that level of conviction. But the problem is you need to also be able to develop those rules with a little bit of flexibility before you get there. But it should be something like that, and there should be probably room for developing it in your religious beliefs. But yeah, a little bit more conviction in not the trades, right? There's totally different than just saying I believe price will go down, so I'm short, and I believe that with all my heart. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I mean the if if this, I will do this, and if this, I will do that, and that there's no question, there's no if, ands, or buts about it. It's not a choice. It's I believe it with all my heart, that sort of thing. But anyways, I digress into rambling here. I think I've done enough on this live stream to cover the basic ideas and maybe have given a chance for Bitcoin to come up and take these highs. Yeah, I mean, everything in here is kind of fair game for targets, for price, before some kind of retracement. The 618, 786, I don't mind scenarios where we get both with some kind of meaningful idea. And maybe we start forming this kind of situation. Not worth talking about it too much right now, but like you can imagine some scenarios where we put in a little high here. Probably don't love the channeling ideas too much, but and there's a bit of a rangy kind of uptrend vibe here, where we put in a rejection, put in a low, put in a new high. Let's bring that towards the 786 a little bit. And then we start kind of channeling here. Come back, take the lows again, and rip. I wouldn't be surprised to see scenarios like that. So anyways, we'll just see. We're at the beginning of an impulse. Might be a short setup here. Again, who knows? And something like this, like a really, let's just say like a Bitcoin rejection could bring alts down a lot, right? If this happens on Bitcoin, you could see some alts getting wrecked. That's a 13% move on Bitcoin. That might start to give us some of this kind of vibe on something like Doge. This impulses, ranges, whatever. And then we get another impulse, maybe make a new high, but maybe on some alts we can even make lower highs. And in this type of scenario, even where Bitcoin just comes back down after another impulse and another big rejection and makes another equal low or maybe slightly lower low, whatever, I'm just giving a scenario. That can be enough to bring out some of this type of stuff on alts in some scenarios. Like they're making new lows. Well, I mean, clearly this is true, right? Like if you say like, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, these alts are down 75%, right? So clearly they've been moving down more than Bitcoin relative to Bitcoin. And if there's just kind of loosely correlated moves, we can get some of these deeper retracements on alts pretty easily here, even with a ranging scenario. And I don't mind that so much because suddenly, again, it's just early to say, but suddenly you get the best of both worlds, which is a bunch of my scribbles. Let's just I just want to keep on this scribble, which you kind of get Bitcoin playing out. How do I do this? You kind of get Bitcoin, the bullish sort of ideas with Bitcoin playing out, where the bullish structure holds and it really doesn't look so bad for continuation. Maybe a little bit of a choppy situation here, and you get the kind of bottom looking stuff that you might expect to see here on ETH and some of these alts, where it's like it starts looking like this, and you run these lows, and it's just the reality, in my opinion, that it's quite reasonable to think that ETH could take this low while Bitcoin does something like this, or something like this, even a little bit deeper, and all this kind of higher low stuff holds out, and this maybe all looks okay on Bitcoin, and you get some of the stuff that really starts to look bottomy on alts, and everything sends and we all make millions. Yeah. Well, somebody says you never know. So he says you never know if moon phases can be confluence. Maybe coin tosses can be too. Definitely can't tell high net worth individuals use moon phases. Yeah. But anyways, I mean, you just have to pull up the moon phase chart and go look. It's impressive. It's been impressive for a long time. It continues to be impressive. I'm going to run through it just really quickly, just saying what, the general premise. But you basically have like, you have obviously, it's not like to say every moon cycle is going to be the major high and major low. That's not so reasonable, but so often you find some nice pivots. I mean, you obviously can fudge it a little too much. Like, instead of giving, I mean, this is kind of impressive even that we came in and made this low here, like how fast it came down. But anyways, it looks pretty good. Blue. It's not to say every moon phase is the Pico high and Pico low, but it's impressive. Like, yeah, it's hard not to be impressed a little bit. This one would have screwed you. Hey, I just saw a YouTube short where I actually don't remember what it was saying. Something like there's a giant AI computer in the moon that is controlling the human race or something. And so maybe it's the moon itself is trading and something to do with the phases. Who knows? You're rarely going to see moon phases turning in the Discord without. I mean, you're often going to see somebody talking about the moon phases. It's kind of like a meme in a little way, but it's also not a meme, right? It's like, oh, it's also a moon phase. Something to think about. All right, I think I'm going to end the live stream. And yeah, we'll see what happens. Obviously, this is possible. We just break out, we rip. But I mean, of course, we'll just see. Who knows? We're going to find out.